You are listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Hello and welcome to another Mizzou That's Who, your podcast for Missouri athletics here on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm joined as always by Gabe DeArmond and Maggie Johnson. Look, we don't have a very fun game to talk about to start off the show. We're going to talk Mizzou basketball, Mizzou football as well, with a little bit of news on the transfer front, maybe even some recruiting news as well. But let's talk about it. Let's get it out of the way. Missouri loses 95-67 in the Hy-Vee Border Showdown, or more commonly referred to as the Border War. It's a disappointing game all around. Gabe, Maggie, both were in attendance. Gabe, I'll start with you. Immediate thoughts after that game.
Well, the 90 minutes leading up to the game was awesome. You could legitimately hear the stampede of the students coming in the door and running down the steps. And, they did a practice round of Mr. Brightside when KU came on the floor for warmups, and Truman came down from the rafters, and you could close your eyes and pretend you were back in the Hearn Center and it was 1998. And then KU missed 2 layups and Missouri was ahead 4-2. And then KU missed again 23 minutes later one time, and that was okay. Everything in between there, not great.
It got to, I think, 12-6, I think is what the score was. And I was like this is bad. I mean, and it was just swish, 3, swish, 3. And I mean, you felt the deflation in the stadium. I mean, there was nothing you could do. Like Gabe said, it was amazing. I got there probably an hour before tip, 50 minutes or so. And it was awesome. And the students looked hyped. And I was like, this is going to be the craziest environment that Kansas has ever played in. It's going to be wild. It's going to be awesome. It was. Yeah, like Gabe said, it was.
It was.
For 3 minutes, 40, or I'm okay for an hour. It was awesome.
Right. I mean, in the crowd, Missouri got back within 15 with 7 minutes left. And that crowd, you would have thought it was a tie game for, a spot in the Final Four. I mean, they tried. But I thought the atmosphere helped Kansas and it hurt Missouri. I mean, the best answer after the game, somebody asked DeJuan Harris, about the atmosphere. And he said, and he didn't say it as an insult. He said, I played in the national title game with 70,000 people last year. And, Kevin McCullar's been in a Final Four, and Kansas gets that environment a lot. And Bill is really good at getting his team up for a game like that. I mean, if you look over his entire career, hey, they might lose at Iowa State sometime. They might lose at Mizzou, whatever. But if it comes down to a game where you go, look, they've got to be up, they're almost always up. I mean, they don't lose games like that. And even if they lose, they play really, really well. And they played incredible. But he said it was the best game they played, and that's coaching. I guarantee, nobody would say it out loud, but I guarantee he convinced his guys all week long, you're going to have to play your best game of the year to win this game because they are going to want to kill you. And Kansas did play its best game, and Missouri played not its best game, and that's what you get.
I do think that DeJuan Harris meant that as a little bit of a dig. Let's be honest. He's from Columbia.
Maybe.
I mean, I'm not offended.
Also, it's true, though.
He has the right to say it. I'm not offended by it. He has the right to say it. He just won a national championship. I mean, milk it, I guess. But, I mean, it was just, I don't know. It was, I've watched some of Kansas play throughout the season. I was like, this team's absolutely beatable. But I talked to a Kansas fan, and he was like, oh yeah, you could just tell from the get-go that they wanted it more. But I mean, you look at their team, the players that they have on that team, you have a player from the state of Missouri, you have a player from the state of Kansas. So I mean, they understood a lot more than maybe Aiden Shaw might understand, but I don't think the Mizzou felt like they had as much to play for. And I could be wrong. That's just from me watching.
Would this be an inappropriate time to point out that maybe Isaiah Mosley understood?
We'll get to Isaiah Mosley in a second.
Okay.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Our conversation will take us there. But I do think, I kept going back to, I kept thinking about this before the game started, about the environment, how Dennis Gates wanted the environment in Mizzou Arena to be crazy before they got to the Kansas game. And obviously it could not get to the levels of what it was going to be before the Kansas game. And I do think, Gabe, you made a really good point. Maybe that environment kind of shook Mizzou a little bit. They only had one real road game, a road environment in Wichita State, which Wichita State's not what they used to be with Landry Shamet and those teams over there. But I part of me wonders if maybe that played a little bit of an impact in it, as we talked about in our preview episode of like getting too juiced up for it, right? Getting too juiced up. And man, Kansas did just play really well. It's really hard to beat a team that's playing that well. They went 10 for 22 on 3-point shots, I believe. And like, that's another thing that we talk about is teams against Missouri keep hitting 3-point shots. When does it become a thing of like, when are you actually bad now at defending the 3-point shot? I think now is the time to say that.
To be fair, Missouri was also very bad at defending the 2-point shot on Saturday.
Their defense was not great.
Well, and like the atmosphere, and I did think, like, I thought it was pretty obvious there were nerves, right? Trey Gomillion had like 4 turnovers in the first 6 minutes. Demoy Hodge just dropped 4 passes. I mean, just dropped them. You were seeing 12-foot shots. It just, I mean, at one point they almost banked in a 3, then an air ball from, they were nervous. And I don't think that, like, even if that changed, Kansas still just has more talent. And that was the biggest factor. Kansas is a better team and it played better. But I do think that the stage got to Missouri a little bit, at the beginning.
Yeah, no, I agree. I stayed for all, 40 minutes of the basketball game. And most fans did. I mean, they got to a point, I really do think that they want to be behind Gates and want to be behind this team. And I think they wanted to show that. But yeah, it was, like I said, it was deflating. And I feel like I used the word embarrassing a little bit too much, but it was also embarrassing.
Well, and like what I wrote after the game was that this shouldn't really have surprised any of us. We all, and I include myself in this, we all let the emotion of what was happening get in the way of actually looking at what was likely to happen. I mean, and I don't say that from the standpoint necessarily that I was like devastated Missouri didn't win the game or anything, but the only thing I wanted walking in that place was a game that made me feel like, oh man, I remember what this was like. Whether that meant Missouri by 6 or Kansas by 3 or whatever, I wanted that last 6 minutes of a game that felt like life and death between Missouri, that felt like the Missouri-Kansas games I've watched before. And it just wasn't that. You knew it wasn't going to be that in Allen Fieldhouse last year. Like, I went to Allen last year knowing Missouri was probably going to get beat by 30. I thought there was a chance that this would be a really good game, and it just never. I mean, this game was over, I would say at the latest at the second TV timeout. Like at the under 12, there was no expectation that was going to be close.
Right. I mean, Vegas even thought it was going to be close too. It was a 4-point favorite for Kansas. I mean, I think I said this somewhere where I think that really it was a win for Mizzou to even have the line that close after losing by as much as they did last year. It sucks to say that, right? About a program that has a first-year head coach that has, what was it, 3 returning players? I can't remember what that number was off the top of my head.
2-ish.
Yeah.
Technically 3, but 2-ish.
We'll go with 2-ish. We'll go with that figure. 2-ish returning players.
Very scientific.
Around the program. So, I mean, you're basically having a completely new slate coming into this game. And yeah, they were 9-0 coming into this game. They were also had the second worst strength of schedule. Well, their strength of schedule did rise, according to KenPom after playing Kansas. But it's one of those things where I do think that there was already moral victories there with where the program has been from where it was to where it is now with Dennis Gates. I got asked if I still am confident in Dennis Gates after that game, and I was like, I mean, Yeah,
it's
it's
10 games.
Right.
Like, what are we doing even asking that question?
Right.
Whoever asked you that, I hope you correctly instructed them that they need to work on their intelligence.
I said that I think that it is only 10 games, and it's hard to beat the number 6 team ranked in the country when you have a team who have only played 10 games together, 9 up to that point together. Which I don't think we should put too many eggs into this basket of this game. They've got a really tough schedule coming up. That UCF game might be a coin flip at this point. I'm curious to see what the Vegas line is going to be on that one. But that'll be a really good game for them to bounce back if they do win and take some momentum into bragging rights. I'm not discouraged by the direction of this program at all. I don't think anybody should be discouraged by the direction of the program if you're losing by less than you did last year against a pretty good Kansas team.
And we had to field the team somehow. Like, people forget most of our team, like you said, we had 2-ish players returning to our team. And he had to field this team. I mean, even in basketball, like the transfer portal is still crazy and people are moving around, moving and shaking around like crazy. And he had to get players from somewhere. We're fielding a team of not very many players that have played Power 5 basketball. It's just the fact of the matter. So if anybody out here is like freaking out and giving up all their hope on Dennis Gates, I just don't think that's warranted.
This season was never about, can you beat Kansas and Kentucky and Arkansas? Right. This season is about, can you beat South Carolina and Georgia and Ole Miss? Can you find your way into that middle-ish to top of the bottom half of the SEC? Because if you can do that, they were 12-21 last year. And I honestly think even if that game had been against Kentucky, like their first test is against Kentucky and they lose by 28, I don't really think people are surprised or even mad. I think they just go, well, yeah, we have a long way to go. And we knew we had a long way to go. It's because of who it was. And it's because of all the emotion. And, it was all the 11 years of buildup and all the hatred and the hurt feelings and the fact that it's still Bill Self over there. Like, Missouri fans just wanted it so bad that the reaction then is a little more than it would be. And I think that's great. Like, I even thought Self said, look, you want to play in environments where people care. And he said they cared. It was great. Clearly they want this. So now Missouri's job is, and Gates said it, he said, hey, it's a great crowd. They did everything they could. And we've just got to give them more. And so now this is, look, it's not going to be that way for any other game this year. We all understand that. It'll be good for Kentucky, good for Arkansas, good for some of these others, but it's not quite going to be like that. But Missouri just has to play well enough that the Kansas game isn't the only game. Like, I was talking to some people in the arena. I said, I feel bad for you that you think this is the first time this building's ever been this way. Because it's not. And it's been that way for teams other than Kansas. Like, I watched a Gonzaga game in there that was nuts, an Oklahoma game. We talked last week. Like, it's been that way for other games, but it was just a reminder that there are ways from it being back there.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Isaiah Mosley situation because it is very interesting. I've said this before on Chiefs podcasts. I'm sure I've said it on this Mizzou podcast before. I think it works with any sport. Coaches aren't purposely playing worse players. I strongly believe that a coach isn't purposely playing a worse player. I think that sometimes we get caught up in, well, this guy's definitely better than this guy. How come he's not playing? We don't really know if he's definitely better than that guy because we're not at practice every day. We're not around these guys every day. We don't get to see every single thing. We just get to see on game day or not see on game day. In the case of Isaiah Mosley, the dude's played 124 minutes this year and in 2, 4, 6, 8, and 9 games. Only 6 games coming in C mode. Didn't get an opportunity to play in the Kansas game. Kid from Columbia. This decision not to play him, I don't want to say feels disrespectful, but certainly he's got to hurt a little bit for Isaiah Mosley to have an opportunity to play against Kansas but not get in the game at all.
Like, we can agree, Isaiah had to know he wasn't playing in that game beforehand, right?
Right. You'd have to think so.
Because I don't think this was a game time decision. I mean, look, I said at halftime, like, I picked out 3 guys, and I won't say their names, but I said on press row, I said, those guys shouldn't, like, don't play them in the second half. So what they were doing wasn't working. So if Mosley was available, I have to believe he would have gotten a look at some point. I think the frustrating part is just that you just don't know game to game, right? If this was hey, Isaiah hasn't played in 4 straight games, even if Gates wouldn't say it out loud, we would understand he was suspended. He's not saying that. And like, I do understand both sides of this. I totally understand why people are frustrated. Yeah. And I think the way Dennis is addressing it is making it worse. But I also understand why he's addressing it that way. He's not going to tell us. He is, in some way, for whatever reason, protecting his player by not telling. And that is certainly his right. We don't have any right to know, unless you guys are some of the ones contributing to Isaiah's NIL, then maybe you have a right to know. I don't, because I'm not. But I also think, like, the way he's addressing it is just leading to some of the stuff I've seen about these theories of why he's not playing. Like, they're crazy, but that's what's going to happen when we don't know.
Well, and that's what's going to happen when you're paying players to play a sport it's kind of like you said, if you're not contributing to the NIL. I mean, there are people that likely are. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that he got, paid a handsome amount to come to the University of Missouri. So I think I understand the frustration from a fan's point of view, but also I look at things like, obviously, like maybe the situation with Mike Leach right now, but like, nobody owes any of us this information. Right. We have no clue what's going on. And if the coaches or athletic department or whatever want to respect the privacy of a player, I have no issues with that. And I kind of don't understand why a lot of other people do either.
I think it could be sorted out. I mean, I guess, Tucker, you watched the TV broadcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I guess it's at one point, Jimmy Dykes said Isaiah didn't practice the day before the game, right?
He did say that, yeah.
Okay. So I think it's pretty easy to figure out. Coaches have a rule. I mean, you cover the Chiefs all the time. Andy Reid's rule: you don't practice on Friday, you ain't playing on Sunday. Like, unless maybe you're Patrick Mahomes, right? Like, maybe you can heal up in 48 hours and we'll play you. But if you are Frank Clark or Juan Thornhill or Isaiah Pacheco and you don't practice on Friday, you don't play. So if Isaiah didn't practice on Friday, I think it's pretty easy to draw a conclusion that that is related to him not playing on Saturday. But again, we don't get to see practice. And Dennis has never told us he's missed practice or whatever, for whatever. And I'm not saying, I don't know if he overslept. I don't know if I have no idea why he didn't practice. All I'm learning is the TV stuff, but I just think that there are ways to maybe explain it a little that don't make the kid look bad, that would alleviate some of this getting asked 14 times a game. Where's Mosley? I mean, people think I'm mad. I'm just like, guys, why are we doing this again? It's the same thing as last game. I don't know if he's going to play any more than you do. He's on the bench. That's what I can tell you.
And you are asking the question.
You're right. It's been asked. Every game he hasn't played, it's been asked. I mean, Dave Matter asked him, hey, do you anticipate Isaiah helping you at some point? And he said, yeah, he's going to get through this and come out the other side, and I expect him to help us. I hope for the kids' sake, I hope for the program's sake and the fans' sake that it's soon. Because the issue is that he played against SEMO. Not much, but he did play. So it is available, and then doesn't play against KU. Now, they've got a week off. What if he plays against UCF and then doesn't play against Illinois? It's just the yo-yo is tough for people to understand.
It is. And has Dennis specifically said this isn't injury related?
Yes. I mean,
Okay.
he has said, I believe he said it's not health and not discipline related. And I mean, it's obvious he played against SEMO.
Right.
He did not hurt,
I
and
just don't.
look, Isaiah had basketball shoes on. He went through warmups. I did my post-game show for Mizzou Arena. He was out there getting up shots for an hour after the game. Like, he doesn't look, I'm sure he's disappointed, but he doesn't look like angry. And nothing I've heard leads me to believe there's like a problem between Isaiah and the coaching staff.
That's good, at least. No, it's just a very interesting situation, especially since he says it's not injury and it's not discipline. Like, well, what else could it be? That's why.
Right.
That's
he
why these
said
wild
it's personal,
speculations have started.
and that's all he's going to say. And people can be upset that that's all he's going to say, but it's clearly at this point all he's going to say.
This happened last year in Georgia with Stetson, or with JT Daniels, by the way. Like, it wasn't injury related, and all this stuff come out, and everybody's asking all these questions, and they're just like, it's personal. It ended up in the end, losing him his starting position, and he didn't get to play in a national championship game. But I mean, we just have to remember that these players, they're kids, and they're going through things that they've never been through before. And, I'm not going to speculate on anything that it is, but I just think that we need to respect the situation.
I think you have to assume at this point that he's not really a factor on this team until he is. I mean, just kind of go into every game assuming, he's probably not going to play. And then if he plays, hey, great. You got another player, You know
who I've been really impressed with this year? Who I didn't expect a whole lot from is Noah Carter. I've been impressed with the way Noah Carter has played. Even, I didn't know a whole lot about UNI basketball. Hand up. That's probably my fault. I didn't know a whole lot about UNI. But watching him come in here, he's played really well. I've been impressed with him. Nick Honor's been playing well. Demoy Hodge, obviously, dog baller. But that game wasn't going to be very much on anybody's highlight reel, I don't think.
Right. Well, and here's the thing. Like those guys you just mentioned, I think we took those first 9 games and we said, see, that's proof they can make the jump from mid-major to this level.
They're playing.
But why? Because they hadn't played they had not played a high major opponent. It's proof that against low major and mid-major teams, they're good players. Mm-hmm. But that's all it was. Like, nothing about being good against Penn or Coastal Carolina or even Wichita State means that you're going to be good against KU or the SEC. That is still very much unproven about that. I mean, this is a team with 2.5 players who have played significant minutes against high major opponents. Kobe, Nick Honor, and Ronnie DeGray averaged a few minutes a game last year. That's it. Nobody else has played this level of competition. And I've been very impressed with Demoy Hodge. But if you're honest, Demoy Hodge is playing the same level of competition through 9 games here that landed him on the All-Horizon team last year.
Yeah. I think also we kind of have to look at it. Yes, we have 2.5 players that have played this type of competition, but Kobe was a non-factor.
Yeah, and that can't happen.
He was a complete non-factor. You can't have your preseason All-SEC, your only preseason All-SEC player score 4 points, go 1 for 5. I mean, it just can't happen.
Especially against a team that shouldn't have really dominated you down low. I mean, the disappointing part about that was Kansas did not have this big dude in the middle. They had KJ Adams, who is approximately the same size as Kobe Brown, inch taller than Noah Carter. Mm-hmm. He played like he was 7 foot, and Carter and Kobe didn't. And that was the first thing Gates said in the press conference. Like, we didn't do nearly enough in the paint. Like we just got beat down there.
Well, we kind of went away from the way that we had been playing all season. I mean, all over the court. I mean, you talk about transition. The way we played in transition was terrible. We turned the ball over. I don't even know how many times. A lot.
21.
I was like, I probably should have wrote that down before. But it was terrible. It was. We just went away from beating them in transition, and we pulled up for stupid threes. I just didn't even know what I was watching.
To be fair, it is very difficult to get in transition off a made basket, and almost every shot was made in that first half. True. I mean, we can talk about anything we want to talk about, but there were 2 problems. First of all, Missouri just couldn't shoot. And not being able to shoot from 3 is one thing. I looked at the stats at halftime. It said they were 8 of 16 on layups. It seems so much worse than that.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought they were like 4 of 20. And then, but KU they got anywhere they wanted to. KU made 22 layups and dunks. Missouri only made 23 shots the whole game. 23 layups or 22 layups and dunks, 10 threes, which were largely just dudes standing out there with nobody in particular anywhere near them. So 35 made shots. They had to work hard for like 6 of them, maybe. It's not great.
It wasn't great. But Mizzou gets the opportunity to turn the page. We're going to finally get into a rhythm here when it comes to the basketball schedule. Thank goodness we don't have any Sunday 11 a.m.
Right.
tip-offs. We're starting to get into the good part of the schedule. Missouri will
Too bad nobody's going to see the next one.
I know. It's on.
Go Bally's.
They love to mess things.
It's on Bally. It's on like the same thing that they want to charge you $20 a month to watch the Cardinals or the Royals or anything. I hope they're not like a partner.
I'll be watching it.
If they are, you can cut it out. But
I
have Bally Sports Midwest. Though.
I think Bally Sports Midwest is a little bit friendlier with TV providers than Bally Sports Kansas City is, because there's about 2 places you can watch Bally Sports Kansas City. And I think I have DirecTV Stream, and that's one of the things that you can watch it on, which very odd. The other ones, like, you can't watch it on YouTube TV, you can't watch it on Google Fibers TV, you can't watch it on any of the common ones, but it's like DirecTV Stream and then maybe DirecTV Box, and that's like it. That's like all you can watch it on. So, against UCF, this is in Sunrise, Florida. This is what you said what their tournament is. They're like shootout, their holiday tournament.
Yeah, I think it's technically a tournament with them, and then Florida State plays somebody in the other game, but then the winners don't play. So it's just like this one game thing. It's really weird. It's like I think it's the Orange Bowl Classic is what it's called. But this is a huge game. I mean, in that stretch of KU, UCF, Illinois, Kentucky, Arkansas. This is the one that you said they need this, because if they lose this, you're very much looking at a 5-game losing streak when Vanderbilt comes to town on January 7th.
Yep, it's going to be big, and you need that momentum going into that Kentucky game or the Illinois game, and then into the Kentucky game. Illinois is a disaster right now. I don't know if you guys have seen what's going on. Brad Underwood's like saying that his players' leaders suck, and like they just suck.
I kind of liked that. I think I kind of think that's what Missouri fans wanted to see out of Dennis Gates, but there's a difference, right? Brad Underwood's been there for a few years, and he has a legitimate, like, their last game before they got beat by Penn State was beating number 2 Texas. So, you treat that team differently than you're going to treat a Missouri team that just got, pantsed by Kansas.
Pants is a good word for it. But yeah, you do need that momentum. This UCF game, as I mentioned at the top, I think it's a coin flip. I haven't really looked at their KenPom numbers. I've got the page up here, which I can look at.
KenPom pick, it gives Missouri a 46% chance to win. UCF by a point is his game prediction.
Okay. Well,
I think it was designated as like a semi-road game or something because it's a neutral site game, but it's in Florida. It was a category I didn't know existed.
UCF is 65 in KenPom. Mizzou fell to
Missouri 60.
Yes, to 60. And looking at their numbers, UCF is 124th in adjusted offense, 32 in adjusted defense. That could be a problem for Missouri as well. But their adjusted strength schedule 258 according to KenPom. So
only 97 spots better than Mizzou.
Yep. So that'll be a good matchup. That is Saturday. Go to your favorite illegal streaming site to watch UCF and Missouri Saturday at 11 a.m. That's on another Saturday 11 a.m. tip-off.
Iranian internet about to get a big boost from Columbia, Missouri on Saturday.
Golly. Well, any more thoughts on basketball before we move on to some football talk?
I'm like thought out of this game.
Yeah, probably not.
I had enough people, talking smack to me on Twitter that I'm ready for it to be over. I didn't even make bad tweets, and I had Kansas fans coming out like, "Are you having fun now?"
But,
and I'm like,
That's
Like, yes.
like that's the good part. You know,
is.
like truly the best part of the game was Eli Drinkwitz holding up the level 1 violation sign, and then Kansas's official account like photoshopping it to let's wait till 2025. Like that's all fun to me.
Yeah.
That's good.
And like I told people, I'm like, I did have fun because this rivalry is better when we're playing each other.
Right.
Like, it's not fun when you're just talking smack to each other, you know?
It was way better than watching them play Houston Christian. You know,
Artist formerly known as Houston Baptist.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Or last year when they played Paul Quinn.
They've played some wild schools in their non-con.
They really have.
Also, just playing Penn is wild to play in your non-con. Let's play an Ivy League school. Southern Indiana, like Mississippi Valley State.
Mississippi Valley State got some votes in the AP poll, but I think it's because the people meant to vote for Mississippi State.
Wait, they got votes in like the real AP poll?
Yeah. Yeah. Go look at it. A Mississippi State fan like sent it to me today on Twitter. And he's like, I think that was supposed to go to us because Mississippi State's ranked now in the top 20. And because Mississippi State's played Mississippi Valley State also and beat them like by 30. And I was like, oh, well, we beat them by 20. So I'm pretty sure that's an accident.
Yeah. Kansas State got 2 votes. How about that? No, I do think that is funny. It feels like every year we have something like that where it's like, oh, a team gets receiving votes because the voter wasn't paying attention, which I think happens more than we think in all of this stuff. But let's move on to some football talk. Bowl game still a little ways away. It's happening.
It's still happening, yeah.
As of now. It's still happening. Never know. But some big transfer news for Missouri. They add commitment from Oklahoma wide receiver transfer Theo Wease, former 5-star. Big deal. Mizzou now has 2 5-star receivers on their roster. So great move for Drinkwitz and company. You saw Jacob Peeler tweeting some stuff out. I think this might have been Friday night, maybe Saturday morning about it. Then Drinkwitz did the Zoo 23 gif, which I thought was a recruiting thing, which I guess technically the transfer portal is a recruiting thing. But I was thinking Zoo 23. I was thinking high school. I think he needs another like portal gif to tweet out. I think he needs to differentiate.
I think maybe you should have been reading the message boards at powermizzou.com, Tucker. That's what I think.
Gabe, you know better.
You would not have been fooled.
You know better than anybody.
Maybe you should have just look at Luther Burnham's tweets.
Seriously, new recruiting
and the amount of time. Yeah, he should be getting paid. He should be getting paid for that. No, like the amount of time it was like got another one, and then it's like Theo Wease closed down my recruitment, and they're all liking it. I'm like, okay, like.
Yeah, need to be better about connecting those dots. But we talked about Dominic Lovett transferring. Pretty good guy to bring in Dominic Lovett's place, I'll say. I don't know. I'm excited to see what he can do in this offense. But what are your thoughts, Gabe?
I think the upside is that like he replaces Lovett, or basically Luther replaces Lovett's production or a little better, and Wease replaces Luther's production or a little better from last year. In 3 years, Wease, because he missed 1 full season with an injury. But in 3 seasons, his numbers are about what Dominic's were in 2. He has 1,000-ish yards on 63 catches over 3 seasons. So, it sounds great to say a 5-star receiver. At one time he was. That's also been 4 years. Theo Wease is, like, I'm not saying he's not good. It has not been a 5-star career thus far. Part of that, hey, they changed offenses, they changed coaches, like he's got talent. And that's what you're looking for in the portal, because guys that have had 5-star careers probably aren't transferring from Oklahoma to Missouri, so you're looking for either a guy transferring up a level or a guy who maybe, played at a higher level, but maybe just looking for something a little bit different. So a lot of potential there. I talked to somebody I know who covers OU, and he said he thinks that Wease has a chance to be a pretty good number 2 to Luther. And so, look, Luther he's got to be the number 1 guy next year. I don't think there's any question about that.
And I'll tell you one thing. I think I'm going to count Luther as a OU recruit. We've gotten better recruits from OU in the past couple of years than OU's gotten from us. And that's trending upwards for me.
Yes. Yes.
Like, I mean, that's in the past, you wouldn't see that. I mean, obviously, they're still stealing some of our in-state recruits, which you'd like to stop. But in the portal, we beat them. And so it's a move in the right direction with them coming to the SEC, I would say.
And again, it's just about get more in than you or get more out than you put in, right? And Missouri's not there yet. I mean, Theo Wease for Dom Lovett straight up. I know the optimistic people, but that is not at this point an even trade. Doesn't mean it can't be next year, but at this point, like, you're obviously a little behind, but that's the first portal commitment. So we don't know what the rest is going to look like. I mean, Tucker already has like 9 quarterbacks committed to Missouri.
Yeah, everybody that transfers in the quarterback, any quarterback that enters, I just send it to Gabe and be like, "This guy, you like him?"
It's going to be like Grayson McCall, Devin Leary, and Hudson Card competing for the starting quarterback job in spring football at Mizzou.
And Sam Horn, don't forget.
And Sam Horn.
Hey,
and Brady Cook.
Tommy Locke, Brady Cook.
Mizzou's official Twitter account tweeted out a practice of their bowl. The only quarterback they posted a picture of, Sam Horn. They're doing that's me connecting dots that aren't there. Is what I was.
If you're a conspiracy theorist, that take is for you.
But listen, I figured out who Mizzou's starting quarterback was going to be because of a social media video that they put out where Drink yelled "one's up" and Brady Cook ran in front of the camera, and I said, "All right, Brady Cook is going to be the starting quarterback."
Now, I also want it to be like the only running back they showed was Taj Butts, so you assume he's the starting running back.
I didn't look at any other position. I just saw the 21 slinging that pigskin around. But listen, a potential a guy. I'm going to say it again. 5-star receiver coming out in 2019, right? Is that what he was? Number 11th nationally by Rivals. When he was coming out of high school, obviously did play with the Oklahoma Sooners, and they kind of had a tough year this year. They did have a tough year this year. So not surprised that he's trying to find a new place to go. Jacob Peeler, he's got that reputation of developing good wide receivers. Luther Burden apparently seems to be the next big recruiter. He's the next thing when it comes to college football recruiting. So I think that's big. Does this now make Mizzou a destination for quarterbacks to look at and say, well, they got some receivers here. Maybe we can go in and have a fun year. And I know before you say it, Gabe, the offensive line doesn't quite make it that appealing. But
I was going to say it.
There you go. I'll leave Maggie to, well, I was going to say I'll leave Maggie to be the wet blanket, but also like, are we going down Theo Wease committing is the key to getting a portal quarterback? That's what we're doing here.
Hey, never know. Never know what they're thinking.
I mean, I'll give you this. It's a take.
Thank you.
about all I got. I mean, I would think having Dominic Lovett would have been attractive to get a quarterback.
That's true.
Fair.
Most of these quarterbacks leaving, though, are pretty experienced. Most of them are grad transfers or seniors, right?
Yeah, a lot of them, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially the best one. I mean, Leary, McCall, Brennan Armstrong. I'm not sure what Hudson Card's eligibility situation is. Slovis, like those guys are all upperclassmen. DJU, those are basically the top guys available to most people. Look, there's a story out about Devin Leary today that lists a number of schools. Missouri isn't one of them. He's visiting Kentucky this week.
Didn't Kentucky just get a quarterback?
No, there was some rumors that Graham Mertz was going to Kentucky, but it hadn't officially happened. So Leary is visiting Kentucky. And look, I think most of these quarterbacks, I think, are going to be committed somewhere pretty early. Because they want to get it done and make their decisions. So these transfers, I mean, Missouri had a transfer DB from Florida in over the weekend. He's getting an in-home visit this week. Like, getting the first visit is pretty big, right? If they take visits. I mean, like, Theo Wease didn't take a visit, but Andrew Armstrong, another receiver they were looking at, was going to visit this weekend, but he visited Arkansas and committed this weekend. So this isn't like a high school kid that says, I'm going to line up these 5 trips and stuff. A lot of these guys have a pretty good idea, and they line up their first visit to a place that they think, unless I go see something I really don't expect to see, this is probably where I'm going to end up. Point being, in saying all that, I don't really think Devin Leary seems very likely at this point to Missouri. I mean, it's not impossible, but like this all kind of started because a few people on Twitter said, well, hey, Eli recruited him out of high school, so this makes sense to me. And they just kind of spoke it into this thing that fans started to think, well, oh, cool, we're getting Devin Leary. But there was never like a single piece of evidence that pointed to that.
Gates recruited Trevon Brazil out of high school, and he still went somewhere else. So
that he did.
I mean, nobody recruited him out of high school except like Mizzou, Cleveland State. So
right. And so, yeah, I mean, look, I still think there's a decent chance that at some point we're talking about a transfer quarterback. I just don't think it's right now, and I don't think it's one of these top like 4 or 5 guys on the market. That said, if I was running Missouri's NIL collective, Grayson McCall's phone would already have rung this afternoon.
Yeah.
Just me.
Dude's a stud. It'd be fun to see him in a Mizzou uniform slinging that thing around there. Mizzou obviously going to play Wake Forest on December 23rd. That's next Friday. Crazy to think that Christmas is already that close. That next Friday is December the 23rd. Insane. Where did this year go? But we'll have an in-depth bowl preview, as in-depth as we get on this show.
Wait, I was going to say, will we? Are you guys going to study up on that?
I'm going to give you everything about Sam Hartman that I can give you.
Okay,
I'm
here's my goal by next Monday. I promise I will learn the name of another Wake Forest player besides Sam Hartman. I won't promise I'll learn 2, but I'll learn at least 1.
Is he still going to play? Like, is that a thing? Because I know it was going around.
It appears so.
He wasn't going.
Yeah, it appears so.
Good. Beat him at full strength. As full strength as they can get with Sam Hartman.
How'd that work for us last year?
Yeah.
Great.
Hey,
also, Missouri maybe just won't punt in this game now. Jack Stonehouse transfer, no punts allowed. I like that.
That's what I said. I was like, guess we just have to score every time.
My favorite reaction to the Jack Stonehouse transfer was our message board and Twitter going, well, it doesn't matter. Missouri's not going to punt next year. So just don't need a punter.
I liked the Harrison Mevis ones because I'm pretty positive he could not punt a football.
Yeah, I don't know.
Didn't they have a punter competition going into this season?
They did. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not misremembering that. The other,
Sean Ketting won it.
Hand up.
Lost it.
Yeah. Hand up. Sorry, I couldn't remember your name, Sean Ketting. I apologize. Maybe he'll have a shot to try out for a team at this point. But yeah, I really interesting in the transfer portal with bowl games and everything like that, how this all works out, of how much recruiting these coaches have to do of just literally every level at this point. And one of the things I thought was really interesting, I can't remember, it was a Kansas State assistant coach was talking about when he was trying to recruit Adrian Martinez. It was a lot different than trying to recruit a high school kid, right? Adrian wanted to know like their playbook, their scheme, the practice schedule, everything like that. And he's like, okay, you want to go put on the uniform? He's like, no, why do I want to take pictures with the uniform on? Like, why would I want to do that? High school kids care about that. They want the pictures for social, they want stuff like that. So it's all very different processes. I'm curious. Now I'm just kind of spitballing here. We don't have to go down this rabbit hole, but do you think college staffs will expand with the expansion of the transfer portal so they have more bodies to kind of cover it more?
I mean, they already kind of have. I will admit I might completely be making this number up. I feel like somebody told me there's like 68 people in Missouri's football offices or something now.
Oh, wow.
But the one number I do remember is, and this is where all this money goes so that they can't pay it to players. Like I heard Dan Wetzel say on the Yahoo podcast either this year or last year that like 20 years ago, the Michigan Athletic Department had 90 employees and now it's like 350 something, because they have to find somewhere so that they can tell everybody they're not making money so that they can't pay the players. So they just have like 27 associate athletic directors and 14 Twitter graphics people. And
I see director of on-campus recruiting for like 18 people on Twitter all the time. I'm like, what?
Well, some guy
like
just
the
came
same job
from Auburn to work at Missouri, and he has some title. And I was like, think they have somebody with that title or a very similar title. And then like Kevin Pendleton just left. He was like the assistant director of player personnel for offense or something like that. I honestly, there's so many jobs over there and I don't really know what any of them are.
It's fair. Better not to know, I think. Better to live in ignorance. Ignorance is bliss.
Don't ask questions.
Don't ask any questions when it comes to college recruiting. That's what we've lived under the whole time. So next week, as I mentioned, we will have a preview. I'm going to leave out the word in-depth, Gabe. We'll have a preview of the Wake Forest, Missouri Gasparilla Bowl. That's going to kick off Friday, the 23rd at 5:30.
I think we should just have Maggie like live blog her trip from bragging rights through her return to St. Louis, like 37 hours later.
Oh my gosh.
We'll talk about it.
Just take a GoPro and that'll be the post bowl podcast so that we're not recording a podcast on December 26th about the Gasparilla Bowl.
I'll be like, here we are, 32 hours in, haven't slept. This is awesome. Cubans are great.
Exactly. Cuban sandwich for breakfast in the Tampa airport on Christmas Eve. This is Maggie's Christmas.
Life doesn't get any better than that, ladies and gentlemen.
We are probably gonna have to. We're probably gonna not be back next Monday. Next Monday we will be back. The Monday after that we will probably be a Tuesday. I'm gonna go ahead and put that out there. But thank you guys for listening all the way to the end of this podcast. We appreciate you. Make sure to tell a friend if you enjoy this Mizzou That's Who podcast, your podcast for Missouri athletics here on KC Sports Network. Make sure to stay tuned in, locked into the same podcast channel, same YouTube channel, Border War with Jeff Hawkins and Jarrett Sutton. They're going to be recapping that Mizzou-Kansas game and looking ahead for Mizzou as well into the UCF and then that brutal stretch that they have. And a lot better than we looked ahead at that stretch. Jarrett does a way better job at breaking it down than we do. So we appreciate you listening.
We're much more entertaining.
That's true. We're the entertainment. He's the meat. We're the potatoes. That's kind of how it goes in this relationship. So thank you guys for listening. Make sure to tell a friend about Mizzou That's Who podcast and KC Sports Network. We'll be back next Monday to preview Wake Forest. So until then, we'll talk to you later.